You're watching a Highwire Media podcast.
It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, a solo journey through Southeast Asia, temples, jungle treks, night trains, cheap guest houses, conversation with strangers that turned into something more. For Kirsty Jones, it was all of that until it wasn't. Because sometime during the night of August 9th, 2000, someone walked into her room at a guest house, and by morning, Kirsty was gone. This episode contains detailed discussions of sexual assault, violence, and murder. Some descriptions may be disturbing, and listener discretion is strongly advised. This story is told with deep respect for the victim, Kirsty Jones, and her loved ones who have spent more than 2 decades searching for the truth. She was 23 years old, raped, strangled, and left for the cleaner to find the next day. No witnesses, no arrest, and nearly a quarter century later, one question still echoes through the narrow halls of the old building in northern Thailand. Who killed Kirsty Jones? Welcome to the True Crime Never Sleeps show. On this week's episode of Cold Case Friday, we dive into who killed Kirsty Jones. Before we do that, give me your thoughts and theories on this case in the comment section below. And with that, let's dive right in. Kirsty Sarah Jones was born in the Welsh town of Troman near Braun in 1977. She grew up surrounded by green hills and quiet roads. Her parents described her as bright, independent, and fiercely compassionate. Her friends said she had this calm warmth, one of those rare people who made you feel seen. She graduated from Liverpool University with a degree in international development and had plans to use it. This wasn't just a vacation, it was a journey, a year-long solo trip through Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. She wanted to see the world before settling into a career. She was deeply interested in people and cultures and the kind of experiences that change how you move through life. She started in Singapore, then Malaysia, then Thailand. She kept in touch with her parents constantly. Emails, postcards, the occasional call from a dusty payphone. She was careful, but not paranoid. And more than anything, she was happy. Really happy. In August of 2000, Kirsty crossed into Thailand by bus. When she arrived in Chiang Mai, she didn't know she was entering the final days of her life. There was something else she didn't know either, something darker, waiting just a few nights ahead, inside the guest house where she checked in. She had been in Thailand for just under 2 weeks at that point, already soaking in everything the country had to offer. Bustling night markets, jungle treks, elephants, sticky rice, the smell of incense, the chaos and charm of it all. Chiang Mai was slower than Bangkok, older, wiser, nestled in the north, surrounded by misty hills and centuries-old temples. It drew in backpackers looking for something a little different. Kirsty was no different. She checked into the RE guest house and massage school on Moon Mong Road, Soi 9. Her room cost just $60 a night, barely over $1 back then. It was simple, small, a bed, a fan, the curtains against the heat, but it was hers. It wasn't just a place to sleep, it had a bit of a reputation. Just earlier, Thai police had shut it down after a young backpacker overdosed on heroin. Drugs were known to pass hands there. Whether Kirsty knew that is anyone's guess. But if she did, she didn't seem fazed. She wasn't naive, just cautious, but curious. During her stay, she joined a 3-day trek into the northern hills with a local tour group, visiting elephant camps, hiking through jungle trails, and camping under the stars. She took photos, laughed with other travelers. She'd met 2 other British backpackers, Nathan Foley and Sarah Wiggett. The 3 became fast friends. They hung out at a local Thai bakery and Irish bar, swapped stories about life back home. Foley would later say Kirsty was grounded, not someone who partied too hard, just present, calm. She had this quiet confidence to her. On the night of August 9th, the 3 of them went out for dinner at a nearby Thai restaurant. Afterward, Foley left to call his girlfriend overseas while Kirsty and Sarah wandered through the Chiang Mai Night Bazaar, one of those sprawling electric street markets filled with lights, music, handmade crafts, knockoff jeans, and the smell of grilled meat on skewers. Sarah went back to her own guest house around 11:30 that night, and that's where the timeline starts to go dark. We don't know exactly what time Kirsty returned or whether she came back alone. The night air in Chiang Mai had already started to cool by the time Kirsty returned for the guest house. Crickets, motorbikes, the soft echo of voices in the courtyard. That kind of humid, restless stillness that settles over the city after midnight. Excuse me. Kirsty wasn't ready to turn in just yet. She stopped at RE's common area and talked with a few of the other guests. Just small talk, nothing heavy. At some point, at some point, she mentioned heading to bed soon. One witness says she was still wearing the same clothes from earlier in the evening: a short sleeved top, sandals, sarong. She was seen walking upstairs towards her room around midnight. Room 4, second floor. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. What happened in that tiny, dim room has haunted her family, her friends, and investigators for the past 24 years. The door wasn't forced open. There was no broken lock, no signs of a struggle in the hallway, but something or someone entered Kirsty's room after she went to sleep. She was sexually assaulted and strangled with a hand-woven fabric necklace, one she'd purchased herself just days before from a local vendor. The kind of necklace tourists pick up as a keepsake. It was tight enough to leave bruising, tight enough to kill. Her body was discovered the next afternoon, August 10th, by one of the cleaning staff, lying face up on the bed, partially clothed. Her sarong had been pulled up. There was no blood, just stillness. A fan still spinning in the corner, and on the table beside her, a half-empty bottle of water. At first, staff thought she might have passed out from the heat, but within moments, it was clear. Kirsty wasn't breathing. She was gone. Police were called. The guest house was taped off. In a matter of hours, what had been just another backpacker stop became the scene of one of Thailand's most haunting unsolved murders. But even from the very beginning, something about the scene didn't add up. And something about the way it was handled, well, let's just say it didn't sit right. The room was small, cramped, even. Just a single bed, a fan, and barely enough space to lay your pack on the floor. When police finally entered room 4 at the RE guest house, it was already too late to preserve anything properly. Curious guests had come and gone. Staff had peeked inside. Whatever stillness had existed in those first few moments after her death was gone. Kirsty's body was lying on the bed, her back flat against the mattress, one leg bent slightly at the knee. Her sarong had been pulled up, her underwear missing. A condom wrapper lay nearby. The position of her body, still exposed, undisturbed, suggested the attack happened quickly and ended violently. She'd been sexually assaulted and strangled with a souvenir necklace, not rope or wire, but a soft hand-woven necklace she'd bought herself. The kind sold by Hill Tribe women on the side of the road, lightweight, decorative, and completely unremarkable, until it became the weapon used to end her life. There were marks around her neck deep enough to tell the story on their own. Her tongue was protruding slightly, something forensic pathologists later cited as a clear sign of asphyxiation. But what made the scene even more disturbing was how calm it was. No overturned furniture, no broken windows, no blood, just a fan still spinning, a pack against the wall, and Kirsty silent and still, as if frozen in the middle of a nightmare no one could wake her from. Police found DNA on her body, semen, a partial print, a condom that had been disposed of. Whoever did this hadn't just violated her, they had left a trace, something tangible. But what they didn't find was any sign of forced entry. Her door had been locked from the inside, with a latch that could be slid shut. Which left investigators with two disturbing possibilities. Either the killer knew how to bypass the lock, or Kirsty let him in herself. Whichever it was, this wasn't random. It was brutal, and it was personal. What happened next would shape the rest of the investigation, and not in a good way. What? Excuse me. Police arrived on scene sometime that afternoon, August 10th, but by the time they got there, damage had already been done. The guest house wasn't sealed off. Curious onlookers had walked through the halls. Other guests had been able to come and go, and at least one person even entered room 4 to see for themselves before authorities officially began collecting evidence. The officers on scene treated it like a routine case. They weren't equipped, and frankly, they didn't seem prepared for a murder of this nature, especially one involving a foreign tourist. Forensic evidence was touched without gloves. Notes were lost, and the few leads they had, some were never followed up on. Others were mishandled completely. Perhaps most shocking, when investigators asked for the guest logs from the front desk, they were told the logbook was missing. Gone. The very document that might have contained the names and nationalities of everyone staying that um, at the RE that night slipped through the cracks. Whether it was negligence, panic, or something more deliberate, no one could say for sure. But just like that, a critical piece of the puzzle disappeared. The room hadn't been secured, the logs weren't preserved, and the early evidence, DNA, prints, fibers, was now part of a scene that had already been trampled over by staff and guests alike. From the very beginning, the investigation was off balance, and Kirsty's case was already slipping through the hands of those meant to solve it. Within days, the investigation had taken a sharp turn, one that looked more like desperation than direction. Instead of widening the scope, police zeroed in on the people closest to the scene: the owner of the guest house, her son, and several members of the staff. It was a move that looked decisive on paper, but behind the scenes, it was chaos. The guest house owner, Ari Anodvin, was questioned repeatedly. So was her teenage son, along with the Burmese cleaner and other Thai employees. Pressure mounted fast, not just from Kirsty grieving family back home in Wales, but from British diplomats, the media, and international watchdogs, now tracking this story closely. Thailand couldn't afford a scandal involving the murder of a Western tourist, so the police leaned in hard, and suddenly they got what looked like a breakthrough: confession. One of the Burmese workers allegedly admitted to the crime under interrogation. But just hours later, he retracted it, claiming he'd been coerced. His account was riddled with inconsistencies. No physical evidence tied him to the room, and the details he gave didn't match what forensic teams had documented. It would be the last time police would pin the crime on someone prematurely. Multiple staff were pulled in and out of custody, questioned, released, and then questioned again. At one point, authorities suggested Kirsty might have died during consensual sex gone wrong, a theory that disgusted her family and seemed more designed to deflect blame than reveal truth. Each new theory raised more questions than answers, and each dead end cost them time. Time that should have been spent securing the scene, analyzing real leads, and tracing the DNA that had been uncovered from her body. Instead, the case devolved into a parade of missteps, false confessions, and half-baked narratives pushed out under public pressure. Whatever the truth was, it was now buried beneath a collapsing investigation. Back in Wales, Kirsty's parents were still trying to understand what had happened. The phone call came in the middle of the night, a nightmare wrapped in formal language and broken timelines. Their daughter was dead, found in Thailand, murdered in her guest house, but no one could tell them how, or why, or who had done it. Sue Jones, Kirsty's mother, refused to stay silent. From the very beginning, she pushed for clarity, for action, for justice. She gave interviews, demanded that Kirsty not be reduced not just to another tourist tragedy in a faraway country. Her grief was raw, but her voice was unwavering. The British government got involved almost immediately. British diplomats stationed in Thailand began pressing for updates. Scotland Yard offered assistance. Pressure built from both sides of the world. In the media, they lashed onto the story with force. Headlines screamed across British tabloids: strangled in her sleep, backpacker murdered in Thailand, family demands answers. Photos of Kirsty smiling, windblown, sunlit, circulated on the front pages, besides grainy shots of the RE guest house and its now infamous second floor. But with each passing day, the cracks in the investigation grew wider. Reporters uncovered inconsistencies in the timeline: the missing guest logs, the botched handling of forensic evidence. Stories about the guest house's previous run-ins with police, including a heroin overdose the years before, surfaced quickly. It wasn't just a murder investigation anymore, it was a diplomatic crisis. Thailand's image as a safe, backpacker-friendly destination was under fire. And Thai authorities, they were scrambling to control the narrative. But behind the public statements and promises of swift justice, the investigation had stalled. And no one, not the British consulate, not the Thai police, not even Kirsty's family, was getting the answers they needed. The case had entered international waters, but justice was still nowhere in sight. For a moment, there was hope. Amid the chaos, amid the noise and media flashbulbs and clumsy police statements, there was one piece of the crime scene that didn't lie. One thread that hadn't yet unraveled: DNA. Forensic teams had collected semen from Kirsty's body, a clear, undeniable trace left behind by her killer. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to identify someone, enough to cut through the rumors and false confessions and point definitively to whoever had done this. The Thai police began collecting samples, first from the staff at RA Guesthouse, then from guests, then from anyone who might have been in the area at the time. The DNA didn't match any of them. They brought in Kirsty's new friends, Nathan and Sarah, interviewed them again, no match. They tested the Burmese cleaner who had once confessed, then recanted, still nothing. Even the guest house owner's son was swabbed, negative. Weeks turned to months. Investigators cast a wider net. Foreign nationals, local Thai men, past guests who had checked in and out around the time of the murder. But by the time they stopped counting, 300 men had been tested. Each result came back the same. No match. God damn it. The DNA remained unclaimed, like a ghost left behind, and with every new test that came back negative, the trail got colder and colder, until even the science seemed to grow silent. Whoever had done this, whoever had entered room 4, violated Kirsty, strangled her, and left her lifeless on the bed, had vanished without a trace. Except for the part of him he didn't bother to hide, parts still waiting after all these years to be matched. Every few months it seemed like there was movement, a whisper, a headline, a name. A New Zealander who had stayed at the RA guest house around the same time as Kirsty became a person of interest. He'd reportedly behaved strangely, kept to himself. Someone remembered seeing him near the stairwell that night, but after questioning and a DNA test, he was ruled out. Then came an Australian, same pattern, vague stories, questionable timeline, statements taken, swabs collected. Once again, no match. There was even talk of a Scandinavian man who had allegedly left the city in a hurry. Another British traveler who'd once been seen arguing in the common area. Few local Thai men had ties to the area or to the guest house, or just looked suspicious. Each time, hope flared, each time it faded. The case was beginning to feel like quicksand. Every time investigators thought they had a foothold, it slipped. Leads turned into dead ends. Rumors collapsed under scrutiny, and the killer, whoever he was, remained in the shadows. Silent, invisible. There was no murder weapon to trace, no usable fingerprints, no solid alibi to unravel, just a mountain of names, theories, and tests, all leading nowhere. And slowly, inevitably, the headlines moved on. Tourists kept coming. The guest house reopened. And Kirsty's case began to fade from the front pages, even as her mother refused to let the world forget. By 2006, 6 years had passed. Still no arrest, no new evidence, no justice. But the case hadn't been forgotten, not by Kirsty's family, not by the UK press, and not by the Thai authorities who, facing renewed pressure and a string of international cold cases stacking up, quietly reopened the investigation. This time, Interpol got involved. Fresh interviews were conducted, old suspects were re-questioned. A team from the UK even flew to Chiang Mai to review the original case files, hoping that maybe, just maybe, something had been missed. Something obvious, something overlooked in the early days of chaos and contamination. They pored over witness statements, walked the corridors of the guest house again, reconstructed timelines, looked at everything from the layout of the room to the angle of the bruises on Kirsty's neck. But time is its own kind of evidence destroyer. Memories fade, witnesses disappear, records go missing. And the more they looked, the more it became clear. Whatever hope there was of solving the case back in 2000 had been buried under 6 years of silence and bureaucratic rot. Even with Interpol's resources, even with new eyes on the files, the case refused to give anything up. There were no new suspects, no fresh DNA leads, just the same unanswered questions. How do you get into the room? Why wasn't there a struggle? And why, after all this time, has no one come forward? The 2006 reopening ended the same way the original investigation had, quietly, without a resolution and without a name. For most people, grief is something you carry quietly. It lives in the empty chairs, in the birthdays that pass by without celebration, in the moments you reach for someone who isn't there anymore. But Sue Jones didn't have the luxury of quiet grief. From the day she got that phone call telling her that her only daughter had been murdered in a foreign country, Sue stepped into a role she never asked for. She became a spokesperson, a liaison, a campaigner, a mother who refused to be silent. Over the years, while the Thai investigation faltered and the media moved on, Sue kept going. She pushed the government to stay involved. She gave interviews, appeared at memorials, sat through meetings with police who offered condolences but no answers. She endured the headlines, the speculation, the false promises that someone would reopen the file or look again. She fought to keep Kirsty's face in the public eye, even as time pushed her further from the truth. Or spotlight, excuse me. Every year that passed made it harder. Witnesses drifted away, leads dried up, but Sue never let the case go cold. Not really, not in her heart. For her, this wasn't about justice. It was about dignity. It was about reclaiming her daughter's story from the tangled mess of rumors, police failures, and tabloid simplifications. She wanted the world to remember Kirsty as she was, a kind, curious, open-hearted young woman. Not just a victim, not just a name in an unsolved file. Even now, more than 2 decades later, Sue continues to speak Kirsty's name in interviews, documentaries, and memorials. She said many times that she doesn't want revenge. She wants the truth. The person who took her daughter's life to be named, to be known, to be stopped. Because as long as Kirsty's killer walks free, Sue's fight isn't over. As of September 2025, the tragic murder of Kirsty Jones remains unsolved. In August 2020, on the 20th anniversary of her death, the authorities officially closed the investigation due to the expiration of the statute of limitations, which, under Thai law, prevents charges from being brought after 2 decades. Despite the case's closure, Kirsty's mother has continued her relentless pursuit of justice. She has been a vocal advocate, keeping Kirsty's story alive in the media and urging authorities to reopen the investigation. In 2018, Sue campaigned to have Kirsty's belongings returned to the UK for forensic analysis, highlighting her unwavering determination to seek answers. While the Thai police have not provided recent updates, the case continues to draw attention from true crime communities and media outlets. For instance, a podcast episode discussing the case was released in December 2024, indicating that public interest persists despite the passage of time and the official closure of the case. The quest for justice for Kirsty Jones endures, driven by her family's unwavering commitment and the continued interest of the public. Was this the work of a stranger, someone who slipped in unnoticed, took everything from Kirsty, and disappeared in the night? Or was it someone closer, someone inside the guest house? Someone who knew how to move through the corridors quietly, who knew the layout, who knew when Kirsty would be alone. The way her room was locked from the inside, the absence of any sign of forced entry, the calmness of the scene, these details don't scream random attack. They whisper something else. Familiarity, access, maybe even trust. Could it have been another traveler? Someone she'd met briefly, shared a drink with, talked to in the courtyard? Could it have been someone who watched her come and go for days, waiting for the moment she'd let her guard down? And if it wasn't a stranger, then why didn't anyone speak up? Why did the guest logs vanish? Why did the early confessions crumble so quickly? There were too many people in and out of the Aria guest house that week to know for sure. Too many names lost to time. Too many opportunities missed in those first critical hours. Kirsty deserves answers. Real ones, not rumors, not theories, not damage control. And while her case may be officially closed under Thai law, these questions, these deeply unsettling, unsolved questions, still hang in the air, like the echo of a voice that was never meant to be silenced. So who killed Kirsty Jones? Was it a stranger who drifted through the backpacker circuit unnoticed, slipping in and out of her room like a shadow? Or was it someone she knew, however briefly? Someone whose name was scribbled into that missing guest log? Someone who never should have gotten close? And more importantly, will they ever be brought to justice? Much of the information from this episode was sourced from reporting by the True Crime Diver, archived UK media coverage, the Murder Diaries podcast, and public statements from Kirsty's family over the years. We also grabbed information from Reddit Unresolved Mysteries threads that kept her story alive in online true crime communities. If this case moved you, we hope you'll take a moment to follow the podcast, leave a rating, and share this episode with someone who cares about justice. It really does help more people to find these stories and helps keep the memory of victims like Kirsty from being lost to time. And before we go, we'd like to thank our sponsor, NordVPN. Today's episode is brought to you by NordVPN, the fastest, most reliable VPN on the market. Look, the internet can be a dangerous place. Between hackers, trackers, and even your own internet provider watching what you do, your privacy is always at risk. And that's where NordVPN comes in. With one click, NordVPN encrypts your connection and hides your IP address, keeping your browsing private and secure. Want to stream shows from other countries? No problem. NordVPN has thousands of servers worldwide, so you can unlock content from anywhere. Plus, it works on all your devices: phone, laptop, even your smart TV. Here's the best part. NordVPN is offering an exclusive detail for my listeners. Get 72% off plus 3 extra months free by using the link in the description. That's right, protect your privacy, stream securely, and browse without limits, all at a huge discount. Don't wait. Click the link in the description today. Take control of your internet security. And with that, thank you so much for watching and listening. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification button to be notified of future videos. And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TCNS. As always, your support helps the channel grow, upgrade our equipment, bring in new hosts, be able to pay them, and take this show on the road. And as always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there.